The Kathy Ando is here as the Lands and Resource Coordinator of Matachewan First Nation, and she's here to give us her perspective from her area on forestry related concerns and what she sees from the herbicides being sprayed in her territory. So I'm your host for this webinar. I think for those of you that don't know me, I'm pretty sure everybody knows me though. I'll also say I'm Kapa Mwepasidekwe Indigenous. Translation for that is that's my Indian name, Soaring Woman. I'm Miss Nabucree First Nation band member, and I'm currently working for the Canadian Wood Fiber Center through the Great Lakes Forestry Center and working remotely out of Wawa. And my reserve is like an hour and a half away from here. So I'm here to support the HAP Initiative 2.0 as a community Indigenous liaison and to help in order to effort to reduce the use of herbicide application and potentially to elimination. So I'll introduce you first to Nelson, and then he can summarize the project. And then we'll go to Kathy after Nelson.
Okay, thank you, Isabelle. Bonjour, bienvenue. Welcome, everyone. So my name is Nelson. I'm with the Canadian Wood Fiber Center of Natural Resources Canada, and I'm really thrilled to see you all connected today for this webinar that we hold under the HAP 2.0 initiative. So HAP means the Herbicide Alternative Program, and that was a project initiated by Teptek, which is now the company RYAM, around 10 years ago through discussions with Northeastern Ontario First Nation communities and organizations about the use of herbicides in forestry. So the engagement took the form of this program, which goal was to develop and implement a strategy to regenerate forests using alternatives to herbicides. Now the program is in second phase, and the initiative is led by RYAM, by Matachewan GP in collaboration with the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources and Forests, and many First Nations communities. So Natural Resources Canada have had the privilege of being invited to collaborate to HAP, and we do so notably through funding that we were able to get from the Innovation Fund of Natural Resources Canada. So thanks again for your interest, and I'm really looking forward to seeing your constructive and positive interaction through this webinar. Thanks again, and back to you, Isabelle.
Okay, so just some quick notes, some house rules before we get started. To just make sure your button is on mute while the presentation is happening, and to wait till the end for any questions and discussion period until then. So I'll go ahead, Kathy, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and where you're from.
Miigwech there, Isabelle. Thank you for allowing me or inviting me to give my perspective. Well, I guess our community's perspective, I should say, on the herbicidal spraying and the cumulative effects of everything that is involved with the herbicidal spraying and the method of the forest management, of how they're cutting, how they're managing the forest. So thank you, everyone. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces on here, and this is my first time doing this, so please bear with me. So what you see on the screen right now is I took an environmental course, and this is a short video that I've done of around our community. What's been going on around it. It shows a lot of the clear cutting, a lot of the spraying. It shows all the water that really surrounds our community. That's why I guess we're so passionate about this spraying and you know, and being careful how they log, how they do their forestry around our community. And you know, we stress this so much on our planning teams. We stress it to industry and M&R, and right now it seems it's not all getting through. So I believe Isabel will be sending out this link to everyone. I invite you to watch the video. It will tell you a little bit more of our community and what's around it. And with that, I guess I'll just go into the presentation. Let me just get this off of here. Oop. So I'm just going to.
I'll be putting the video in your chat, link in your chat at the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Oops, sorry, my phone's gone off there. So this is issues and concerns in and around my community.
Kathy, Kathy, we are still seeing the your Google Chrome window, so you might want to close it so we can see your PowerPoint.
Okay. Let's see. Let me just hear.
Yeah, you can exit, and it's just because it's downloaded. There you go. And now I guess you'll have to share your screen again by selecting your PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, there we are. And then I go to slideshow.
Yep, slideshow at the bottom.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
Oh,
thanks.
Okay, it's different. Okay. So this is a list of concerns that the community and let me just say too that I've been working with a collective group of First Nation communities that are also on the Temiskaming Forest right now on the forest management plan, and so some of these issues are as a collective that that we're all have the same issues regarding the forest management plan. So the treaty and aboriginal rights in forestry operations, duty to consult, accommodate. We're looking for funding for a forester development advisor, and that's because of the capacity in the lands department. We don't feel the honor of the crown, objective herbicides, Birch Protocol, size of clear cuts, shoreline, moose adequate feeding, their breeding, their bedding areas, identifying operations that specify effective trapping grounds, specifically effective trapping grounds, TEK incorporated into the FMP, social, economic, and economic benefits from the forestry. So, and this is a list that we've come up with. Of course, I'm sure there's a lot more other concerns. This is what we thought we need to deal with right now in our forest management plan that is actively going on the Temiskaming Forest. So to achieve meaningful and adequate participation in the planning, operations of the Temiskaming Forest, to achieve equitable and sustainable benefits from the forest, to reach a common and respectful understanding with the MNR, to the critical importance of the traditional economic knowledge to the forest planning process. So the size of clear cuts, we'd like to see them limited to 260 hectares. So clear cuts, they have no size limits. The residue patches are so thin and you can see through them. It endangers the animals when having to cross. So when you're out there moose calling, and I got this from the elder, and he really made me think about it. When they're trying, when M&R they're saying, to pinpoint a specific issue or value, And he said, so when we're out there calling our moose, they're not standing right beside us. They're going to be coming from, way far, and they got to travel through all these clear cuts and all these patches that have been sprayed by herbicide. So that's very concerning. Trees that are left so small that they just fall down. It seems, they have to leave a certain number of trees in these clear cuts. But if you look at these trees, like they're dying. Like there's nothing left to them. Especially the birch trees. If they leave a birch tree up, once you cut around it, and this is what the knowledge that I'm hearing from my elders, once you cut around these, they're just going to die off. So I think we'd like to see more of larger patches left for the birds and that, rather than just leave the dead ones there. Cuts are left as a mess. With the method of cutting, I have to say, when I first started, which was about 9-10 years ago now, when I moved back home to my community, I knew nothing. I knew nothing at all, and I was teaching myself from scratch, because coming into your community after you've been gone for like 35 years, you have a lot to learn. It's like a big cultural change. So when I started seeing all this and sitting on these management plans, and I'm looking, and it's really making me understand what the elders are saying, with the and not just the elders, the land users. Like you got to listen to them all, like the trappers, and the way the cuts are being left now, so they cut to lengthen the bush, so that causes it so they have to wait longer before they can do the silviculture on the cut. So by that being, of course, they're going to have to spray, because now they need to get rid of all that stuff that has grown up within the 2 or 3 years. So I guess that's a big concern, is the method of cutting, and that's one of the reasons why they say they have to spray those areas to get the result that they're looking for. And I say that to get the result they are looking for, because that is how it is, not the result that the communities say or have the input. Like we give the input, but if it doesn't meet what they are looking for, it almost feels like it just gets ignored. So also buffers on the shoreline. So I say First Nations here because in the collective group, this is coming from a lot of the communities around here, not just my community. And I shouldn't just say First Nations, because I have people from the municipalities, all land users that aren't Indigenous, that come up to me and say, wow, do you see what they're doing? And I say, yes, I do. But it's a hard fight. It is a hard fight. And I hope one day that we can reach, that mark where we can all be happy. But they harvest right to the shoreline. And so there has been a lot of research that the herbicides and the work that they're doing on the forest, like some of this stuff does get into the water. And if you think about it, there's no buffer along the shoreline to filter any of that stuff going into the water. They say it doesn't, but the community, the members, the land users, they disagree. they disagree, and they feel that it is getting into the water, and more testing should be done on that, especially in all the lakes, I think. They say they want to replicate the fire in many aspects, but you know, that's another one. Like when you look at a fire, it doesn't burn everything. So that's another area that's hard to understand. It also makes it easier for predators. Like, yeah, everybody's got to go to the water. Like, you know, all the animals, like the water will draws them. That's where they go. And if you got a great big, you know, clear cut with, you know, a lake in the middle, but just a couple of trees around, because they do have to leave so many trees, you know, around the lake. I do understand that. But a lot of our trappers and the land users, they feel that you know, it is easier for the predators. It's not safe, especially for the moose. When I was out there hunting, I seen, you know, like you see the moose tracks going up to the swamp or the lakes and that, and you see all these wolf tracks around it, or bear tracks, and so. I mean, it is a way of life, yes, it's, you know, but I don't think we should be making it easier for the predators. And I wasn't sure if I should put this statement in there, but what I'm presenting here is how our trappers and community members and like how they feel when it comes to this. So it's felt like it's just another way for them to take more of the wood off the clear cut. So I'll leave that as that. So then we have our birch. So, you know, we're hoping to get a birch protocol within the FMP. So, you know, so that we can have our healthy stands of birch back. You know, we'd like them to leave the larger patches of birch. And yes, you can do that with the individual stands, but it seems like it's a big fight when it comes to that. So, you know, I think that this needs to be put right into the forest management plan. Again, here's where the herbicide affects it, because when they're spraying, especially now, like if they have to leave, like, you know, 2 or 3 years before they can get in there to start doing the silvicultural work, they gotta spray it. And as soon as they spray, it kills all our birch trees. It kills everything on the land, actually. You know, so we'd like to see where, you know, there's a nice buffer left around these stands. You can't have roads going through it. I'm told by my elders and by the trappers, you know, once you put a road around it or through a nice birch stand, it's going to kill off the birch. There's a lot of birch that's left in our clear cuts. And when you do look at the video, I believe I do have a lot of, it'll show what's left in there, and it's not good. Like these birch trees that, you know, they just leave in the patches, they could be used so much. They could be utilized so much, you know, from the community members. And they come and tell me they have tears in their eyes when they see that they're just laying in large patches and just rotting. But one thing I have noticed when I went out moose hunting there a couple of weeks ago, they're using a lot of these birch trees now for their roads. So I don't know. I don't know what that means, but
Kathy.
so I think they do. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Can you just move your microphone a little bit further from your mouth? Getting some.
Sorry.
Okay, I think that might be better. Sorry.
Went around. I know. That's okay. So, yeah, so I think some more cross-cultural training really does need to be done. We say that all the time when you know when we talk with ministry or even industry. But I know there's some really good work being done out there by a lot of other First Nations and organizations. Uh, we have our own band member that is doing amazing work, and I think you know who you are. So yeah, so right now also the moose adequate feeding sites and calving sites, you know, they need to be protected as well. And you're dealing with MEAs right now. I'm just working on that right now on the planning team. So they're trying to sort it out as to how these MEAs are going to be put in the clear cuts, like in our the areas. Um, so I'm just learning a lot on these areas. I do know from going out moose hunting, the clear cuts that we have now, they're too large. They don't have enough residual patches left between the cuts. You can see right through them. You can see right through these cuts. So this is just some of the area around. I'll just show you like some of the pictures that you're seeing. If you can see here, like some of these trees, like you know, these are birch trees. They're not going to stay. Like they're just going to die off. A lot of them. Just when I was out moose hunting, I took a few pictures here. Whoops, sorry. Yeah. So this is, you know, this is how they're leaving it now, and this is through the whole cut because they're cutting to length. And this is a washout we've been dealing with now for over 10 years in one of the cuts. So these are still left in there. Like this is stuff that's been left on our land that, you know, they feel is, I don't know why it's still there, honestly, because if that was anybody else, I don't think that they would have been allowed to let this stay there without even cleaning it up. And this washout, just to let you know, this is a road where it was a turnaround road. It was like a loop road that went from the bridge to the Causeway Bridge. So it was like an emergency exit too, like, you know, it made people feel safe in this area. So I've been trying to get this washout fixed since I came back to the community. Okay, so this was on a trapper's, when we went to a trapper's ground, and like this is what we're seeing. It takes us to go out and do site visits, you know, like to us, it's not being monitored properly. So how the herbicide is affecting our trappers, it's all about cost for industry, they feel. They're spraying too close to the trap line. So what they're saying, you know, when the trapper says, well, I don't want you spraying in my trap line, but they'll still spray right outside the lines of the trap line. And, you know, trying to make them understand that you can spray there, but our trappers feel the animals don't know that. They're going to bring it into the trap line. You know, like it's cumulative effects, I guess, of all operations that are, you know, for the trappers. The spraying, the way they're cutting, how much they're cutting. And we ask for trapline analysts when they go in and analyze their trap lines. And that to me is not very efficient because all they're really showing is what type of trees is in there. They're not showing what's happening on the trap lines forest bed. you know, like there should be more testing, more monitoring done especially in trapping areas, because that's their way of life. They're still on the land trapping. You know, that's their social life. That's the impact to our trappers. And again, cross-cultural training, you know, I think they need to know more of the Indigenous way of trapping. So this is what we find left. Like that's, you know, like this is just a little patch. If I was to put all the pictures of this cut in there, you'd be amazed to see how much wood is really left on the ground. This is firewood too. This could be firewood for the communities, but it's just all left out there to rot. I wish I had my pictures of the birch piles that I went through a cut, and just there was so many slash piles of birch. I think it is in my video. I'm not quite sure. So TEK, it does need to be incorporated more in the FMP, although there's language that speaks to TEK in the plan. You know, there's no way of measuring how the TEK is in the plan, and when you actually, you know, sit there, or when the plan's implemented, and you go, you know, you go out into and do some site visits and that, and you ask them, so where was TEK put in here? They don't know. I don't think they know how to implement it in the plans. Maybe, I don't know. So we've suggested many ways for, you know, for industry and M&R to incorporate TEK, but we don't really ever see them included. Like we say, we'd like to have our members out on the land, you know, when they're doing their studies, or when they're doing their moose counts, or you know, in the waters. But we don't get asked until we have to ask to be there, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be the top of the line, you know. Oh, we're going to do this. Let's make sure that we have the Indigenous knowledge in there also. Let's make sure that we get someone from the community, maybe to come out and help us. So the changes to the Environmental Assessment Act, Bill 197, I'm sure you all know about that. So this came partway through when we were doing our forest management planning process on the Temiskaming, and then COVID came, and the bill was passed, I guess. So when we finally got back to the table through our Zoom meetings and that, you know, we've asked for explanations on the changes, how they were. We really didn't get very good answers, because I don't think it really came down the line even to M&R. Like, please know, I'm not blaming anybody here. I'm just trying to show how frustrated it is for the communities, especially with the environmental assessment. Like, that's so important when it comes to the communities to be able to do what they are thought to have, to protect the land, to protect the water. And so with COVID, it has impacted First Nations' ability to participate a lot on the planning team. But the planning team, like the process, it continued. It did continue. Mind you, there's still a lot of consultation that still has to be done with First Nations now, but it's being rushed. It's being rushed through because they have their timelines, and so it's basically leaving us scrambling to keep up. So one of the we thought maybe to have like a funded forest advisor position in each community, you know, that would help, not just like I'm there with the new relationship fund, but there should be someone in there that just deals with forestry, because there's so much going on in the lands department desk. There's so many different files, and we're one person in there. Like, while I'm one person, in other communities, some might have a couple of more. Every community is different, but I'm one person in there until we got our MDA, of course, and that really did help, because now I don't have to do the mining, but there's still so much more other areas that one person has to do. I mean, when you look into the M&R, the industry part, they have one person doing all the individual, like, you know, we deal with in scope, out of scope when trying to address at the planning team level. It is becoming extremely painful to be passed from one door to another door, in scope, out of scope. That's, you know, that has to be dealt with, because consultation and accommodation is there and it needs to be done. When from our perspective, these issues are very much in scope in asserting our rights and interests in our territories. We have never surrendered or ceded any rights and our jurisdictions in our territories. We have also been totally exasperated by the process to date, and COVID has really put a toll on us. COVID, so we're burdened by COVID in our communities to trying to engage our community members. It's very hard because, you know, a lot of our land users and trappers and elders, they don't have the technology, you know, with the computers, and so to try to engage with them that way is very hard. And you know, being one person in there, you know, to be able to visit everybody's homes, it's just not possible. It can't happen. And so, like, even our community now, we're on a shutdown. It's invite only, you know, because we did have some COVID cases in our mine here. So you're up and down. You're up and down. So the consultation part of it, I find, is very hard. Meetings, okay, I can do that with Zoom. That's not a problem. Also, when in the new forest sector strategy, they want to add 30,000 more in harvesting within the forest sector. Wow. So how much more spraying is going to be needed, you know, to be done on there? I'm just going to let's see.
Kathy?
Yes, sorry.
Oh, I'm just looking at the time. It's 11:40, but
Yep.
we can still have you talk until another 10 minutes if you want, and then we'll have questions.
No, I think that's good. I invite you all to watch the video. I think it'll explain it a little more. It'll show you what's going on around our community with all the spray that was done. And just a little, just gonna add this, you know, we had our moose hunting season there, and we had a member that hunts in this one area all the time, and he went out there and it was sprayed. It was sprayed. And then he went out the next day, and that's when the sign was put up. Like, this is during our moose season. This area was his way of life. This is where he went all his years, you know. So I know this is all about the herbicide spraying, but it's all connected together. Like everything that they do, um, on how they manage the forest, it's all connected. So I hope that was okay.
That's great. All right.